So our first deal, you'll never believe it, but we ended up getting a private investor off of Craigslist. I don't even
Wow.
know if I could do that now, but we got a private investor, flipped a property, made our first profit on that, and we are like, okay, it works, right? It was like that first deal and that first leap that gave us the hope that this actually works. And also because we didn't have any money, bad credit, no job, it actually like forced us to be a lot more creative. And so we got really creative with financing, and
Mm.
we still get creative with financing. We use OPM, other people's money, anytime we can. And so, yeah, that's how we got started in real estate.
Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and so excited about today's show. I have a great guest. I've been so fortunate lately with such wonderful guests, and today's guest she thinks a lot like me. And so we're going to have a great conversation about your money relationship and a lot of practical aspects as well. I'm going to introduce you to Janine Mix. She is a Christian entrepreneur, author, speaker, and investor who turned her financial life around from being $120,000 in debt to becoming a multimillionaire. After years of frustration with conventional financial advice focused on strict budgeting and cutting expenses, Janine finally experienced a breakthrough by unlearning these limiting approaches and transforming her relationship with money. The pivotal shift empowered her to take bold strategic actions that led to complete financial freedom by the age of 33. Janine believes the more wealth in the hands of women can change the world and is passionate about helping women get out of their own way and break financial barriers that build generational wealth. Janine hosts the Permission to Prosper podcast, where she shares insights on financial empowerment and wealth-building strategies. Her new best-selling book, Buy the Damn Coffee, is a call to break free from the cycles of blame, shame, and restrictive money habits, empowering readers to embrace a mindset that fosters confidence, growth, and impact for their families and communities. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation
I
today.
know. I am too. I'm so happy that we met. We had a great conversation before the show. And yeah, I love the way you think and the way you are helping people with these tools for empowerment. So why don't you give us a little background, on how you got to this place of being the expert that you are?
Yeah. Well, I'll start at the beginning of like going to college. I got the typical advice, go to college so that you can get a good job. And after you work that job, when you can retire at 65, then you can travel and do things that you enjoy. I also got the same kind of messaging. That's why I wrote the book Buy the Damn Coffee. The same messaging of, oh, if you buy your coffees, you're going to be broke. That you need to pay off your debt as soon as possible. Nothing else matters more than paying off your debt
Yeah.
in life. And I wore that on my sleeve. And so I decided to go to a college that my parents did not prepare for me for. Not that I feel like parents have to pay for your education, but when they're like forcing you to go and sign the loans, that's definitely the first time I gave up my financial power, but not the last. And I was told to go to the best school, get the best degree. The problem was I wanted to be an actress. So I didn't feel like I needed to go to school. And so my parents and I argued back and forth. And after applying for majors I didn't want and getting into schools I didn't want to go to, they finally caved in and met me halfway by saying, "Hey, I think you should try to get into a prestigious theater school. So I decided to apply for Chapman University, and I write about a really funny story about that in my book, how I even got in, because I shouldn't have. I totally tanked my audition. But 4 years later, let's fast forward, and now I'm $120,000 in student loan debt. I come out, I finally go to LA to do the one thing I wanted to do for 4 years, which is act. But unfortunately, I ended up having to work multiple jobs to pay off my $1,200 in student loans. And that was quite a while ago. I'm almost 40. So that was more than my rent in Los Angeles. And so I was hit with the reality of taking on those loans. Yeah. And at one point, I'm being told this is what you have to do to get to college to get a good job. And then at the other point, I'm out of college trying to get that job, but I can't. And then also I'm being shamed because I have this debt. So I was living in like a dichotomy of like, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And I was in LA working in retail, living in a cockroach-filled apartment, literally had cockroaches. I couldn't even sleep in my apartment. I would like, when I get off work, I turn on my lights really quickly just to step on as many as I could. Oof. Like that's how bad it was. I stopped showering, stopped sleeping, stopped eating in this little studio apartment, which I was also still paying $1,000 for in Los Angeles at the time. And I just remember being at the bottom of the barrel as far as thinking that success and wealth would ever be something that I could attain. And I was working in retail. I was working on some of the top retail locations in California, Beverly Drive. And I had opened up stores with this company in Soho, New York, and Americana at Grand, The Grove, just some of these amazing locations. I worked with celebrity clients like Katy Perry and Paris Hilton. And I was seeing this other lifestyle, right? Like I was seeing this like, wait, I don't see them cutting up their credit cards or giving up their coffee. Like, what did they do? And so I was like, as much as I couldn't afford lunch on the street that I worked, I was also seeing just people dripped with wealth and being like, okay, there must be another secret to this thing. There must be something that I'm missing that I didn't learn. Turns out we don't learn any of it, right? Like no one's born with like financial literacy, and it's not taught in schools, not taught in church. It's not really taught well in families, as you know. Like we have so many money stories that we pass on for generations. And so I decided to hit the reset button on my life. I said, I am not going to live like this for the rest of my life. There's no way I'm going to make it here in LA. I have no idea what I was going to do. And at the time I had met a boyfriend and he's like, hey, by the way, I'm moving to Montana. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know, I have nothing to lose and everything to lose at the same time by just hitting the reset button on my life. I wasn't going anywhere. I was drowning in my debt, and I was still making $55,000 a year in retail, which at the time was great money, and I wasn't seeing any of it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to come with you, you know, like this isn't a, I love you. We're going to get married. This is like, I'm just going to take a leap here because nothing is working out here. So you could have said like we threw a map at Montana. We moved to Montana and decided that's where we were going to restart. And he was in the film industry and kind of same thing, grew up with a typical, middle class view of money, but, you know, that wealth was for other people and you just get a good job, etc. And so we moved to Montana and then we decide, let's start investing in real estate. For us, we had seen, and something that I truly believe is the two quickest ways to wealth are through business and real estate. And if you look at any of the successful people that you look up to, they have one or two or both, you know, of those things. And so we decided real estate. Problem was I was 6 figures in debt. Had no job. I just moved with no job, no place to live. My boyfriend at the time had really bad credit. And so we had no money. And so that's like a fun place to start in real estate. But we knew that this was a vehicle and we needed to learn how to use it. And we got some mentorship, took some classes, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we're like, we can do this without our own money. And so our first deal, you'll never believe it, but we ended up getting a private investor off of Craigslist. I don't even know if I could do that now, but we got a private investor, flipped a property, made our first profit on that, and we're like, okay, it works, right? It was like that first deal and that first leap that gave us the hope that this actually works. And also, because we didn't have any money, bad credit, no job, it actually forced us to be a lot more creative. And so we got really creative with financing, and we still get creative with financing. We use OPM, other people's money, anytime we can. And so, yeah, that's how we got started in real estate. Now, this isn't like a Cinderella story where her Prince Charming just swept her off her feet. Like, we were both broke. We both didn't have family around us that had invested in real estate and done anything like this. Everybody thought we were crazy. What do you mean you're going to get in more debt? You're in debt now, and so we just took the leap, and it was a good 10-year journey. It was about 7 years when we started to really see that hockey puck stick take off, and a good 10 to be completely financially free. So it's not real estate, and really anything that is withstanding is not a get rich quick.
Right.
For us, real estate was a quick get rich guarantee if you don't give up. And so we just stuck with it, and now we own over $15 million worth of real estate, over 100 doors. Wow. And if you would have asked that girl living in Los Angeles in that apartment if that would have ever been her real life, I wouldn't believe it now.
That is such a great story. I really love when people tell their stories, because there's so much great career advice in there. I mean, everybody who comes on the show has traveled a path that they really didn't even expect to travel. And I just love that, because, it's also the career coach in me that wants people to see, like, there are so many ways to, get to some future you that is going to be amazing, that you really can't know. Like, when you were in the little cockroach apartment, I mean, you just would not have believed it if somebody told you this was going to be your life. So no. I love that. And I think it just gives people so much hope and inspiration, hopefully, when they're listening to stories like yours and others, that's what they're feeling, because that's the appropriate feeling. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, she did it, but I couldn't, because you would have said the same thing. So I just love it. I think it's so inspiring for people to hear. And it's also so varied and creative, how people make their way, and I just love that. So,
yeah. There's so many ways to wealth, but picking one is important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shiny objects, and, you want to jump from thing to thing to thing, but picking one. And ultimately, I really, truly believe if you hate where you are, like, listen, I hated where I was. Yeah. I could not cook in my apartment. I would open a drawer and cockroaches would come out. Yeah. Like, I'd have those sticky traps that you put in under your sink. Those would be full every single day, not just with like mother cockroaches, but like she'd lay her eggs on them. Oh. It was disgusting. I couldn't sleep. It was so stressful, and I hated my situation so much. And while this was all happening, I had also gone through, I worked for a company that went bankrupt. That was really interesting to see and be a part of. But come like Christmas one year, I was just unemployed because they filed bankruptcy, and I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was really at a very low point, and I'm a big believer in your mindset, and I know you are too. This is definitely something that would connect, but I had to literally believe something else was possible, even though everything I was experiencing was telling me otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I had to do something drastically different. They say, like, if you do the same thing over and over, it's the definition of insanity. I could not continue working in retail, which is what I knew actually since I was like 7 or 8. I worked in my mom's store when I was a kid. Her retail store. So I couldn't go where I wanted to go doing the same thing I was doing. And I really believe that hitting that reset button on my life and moving to a place I had never visited or been. I had never been. I honestly, let's be honest, I'm from California. I know you live in California. I was like, where's Montana? I did not pass what is it? Geography. I didn't pass that, like that. I didn't know where Montana was. I didn't know where this guy was saying he was moving. I had no idea. But I had to do something different. It was if I was really going to change my life. And sometimes that calls for a reset. Sometimes that's a new job, a new career opportunity, a new place to live. Like, I don't think I know I wouldn't be where I am now if I would have stayed in Los Angeles. I just didn't have the same opportunities that I had in Montana. Cost of living. You will never believe this, but I moved into a house with girls from a studio cockroach filled apartment that I was paying $1,000 a month for to a house with girls paying $300 a month. I was like, I put in a quarter in the meter in downtown Billings, that's where I moved, and it gave me 10 hours. And I called every friend I knew in LA, and I was like, I have died and gone to heaven. Like, I don't know where I am right now. This is amazing. So I needed that reset in a massive way in my life in order to shake things up and get me to take those steps towards the different life. Now, I said this when I was telling my story, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like, okay, we just bought our first rental. Like, there was a lot to work through in that first year. I think we started investing in real estate year 2, pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think any of that would have happened if I just didn't hit that reset button, do something different, and commit to that. Like, I didn't move to Montana to have it be the same. And what did I do? I went into what I was comfortable with, and I got a retail job right away. I knew that's how, I moved with no job. I had to get some money somehow. And so I went to the familiar. But while I was working that job, I was like, this isn't forever. I didn't move here to be in the same place I was in LA. That means on weekends, my husband and I are hanging up bandit signs like criminals on the corner, like those signs that were like, we buy houses. So like, you have to do something differently. And I really believe that, like, it does require sacrifice, but it not of like your entire life. Like, for me, my risk tolerance is so much stronger than I think a lot of people, like, I know that, who moves across the country to a random state with a guy she just started dating. I understand. I'm a little cray cray. Also, we started investing in real estate before we were married. So, I took some risk. Yeah. But, and I understand not everybody has that same risk, but you have to take risk. You have to take risk in order to create wealth. There's no way around that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, that's a whole mindset thing, because some people, risk is easy, or easier, obviously. People have different, I call them archetypes around that. And so for some people, it'd be like, pushing a boulder up a hill to get them to take that kind of risk. Other people would be game, So I think it's really important to understand that about yourself. I feel, I might be wrong, but anybody who is willing to go into acting has to have some level of risk tolerance, in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah, let me be one of the millions of women who want to be an actress in LA and see how that works out. Yeah, for sure.
Although, to your point, because a lot of this, I was just listening to Mel Robbins talk about something and her success, and she was saying, it's really just a matter of persistence and action and patience. It's like, keep doing it, whether you feel like it or not, be patient, but do the thing. Like, even when you feel like giving up or you feel like it's, no longer worth it, whatever. So, even with something like acting, I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, that is a persistence game for many, many people, especially. Yeah, that's a tricky one. But I think if you wanted the reset, which I think must have been an intuitive sense that you had that allowed you to do this as well. But even being able to tap into that and hear it and understand it and take that risk. So, there's just so much self-awareness that goes into all of this. And I think that's true for pretty much anything related to money, but also probably everything else. But, and when you're young too, I mean, a lot of people are saying these days that your 20s is a time to try things. I mean, don't lock yourself in. Try different things. See what you like. And so it was a good time for you to be able to do that too. I'm
Yeah.
super curious how you convinced the investor to help you with this property, the first one.
Yeah, well, it was going to be a split. So you can convince anybody who has money if they get a good return to invest with you. That's the thing. If you have a good deal, people understand that. And so while we hadn't had the experience, I think he could see that we had the grit. And he was gonna, if we couldn't fulfill, he was gonna get this house. So,
Yeah.
we put him on first lien position. We did all the paperwork in his favor, which put us against the wall to like really get this deal done. But people with money, with like cash like that hanging around, usually have made some pretty good decisions. And so we
Yeah.
gave him a good return on his money. But what was interesting is that deal did not go as planned at all. In fact, it took longer to sell on the market and he started getting cold feet. So he wanted to be backed out. And we were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we just need to keep it on the market a little bit. And he started to kind of freak out. Like, is this house going to sell? Is he going to be stuck with this house? Like, he didn't want the rental, even though he had the first lien position. He wanted the cash on cash return. So last minute, we're like scrambling to buy him out. And so I called up my mom, who had a free and clear house in California. And I said, hey, if you get a line of credit on your house, I could give you a 12% return and I only need your money for a few months. So she was going to make several $1,000s in a few months. And she's like, okay. And I was like, okay. So we bought out the investor. And then again, it didn't go as planned. I ended up holding onto that rental for, I mean, I think we just sold it. So it ended up not selling. We held it as a rental, ended up doing Section 8 on it. It ended up being one of the best performing cash flow rentals we had in our
Wow.
portfolio. So while it didn't quite work out, we learned probably every aspect of real estate on that one deal. And then we started having multiple people invest with us. So my mom has been an investor with me for several years.
Wow.
My sister, we were able to get into real estate doing the same thing in Flagstaff, actually. She was able to get some rentals using a line of credit. And so, and even my husband's parents were like, hey, we've got some cash laying around. So once you start, you get these investors that start to see the deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do invest in people too, and we haven't lost anybody money. So,
Wow.
like you invest in the people too, but ultimately you're investing in the deal. If you have a good deal, it should be a no-brainer for an investor.
Wow. Oh, that's such good information. I love that. So, okay. So you continued to do this and made a lot of money. Why did you reset again? Like, why stop?
Yeah, well, I would say that we only just recently stopped. So I was going to say something too about the acting. So originally, the entire reason I wanted to be an actress wasn't to be famous, but it was to make an impact. I saw like famous people as wealthy, and I saw people like Angelina Jolie do things in Cambodia, and I just thought that was so cool. And so I was like, how can I, at the time, my limited thinking was like, the only way that I can make a difference is if I go into the movies.
Interesting.
And that's just not true. There's so many
Yeah.
ways to build wealth, but I didn't know that. And so that's originally why I went to school for acting. And then when we hit the reset button and moved to Montana, it was still always the goal for us to give back and to be able to fund impossible dreams. And I'll share an example with you when I'm in that apartment and I lost my job and my sister and her whole family decided to come to Christmas at this little studio apartment and I felt like a failure. So I went and bought a Wii and I bought them all the presents that they wanted. I got into like $5,000 worth of consumer debt and it was dumb. It was all because I felt bad about my life. And I remember them leaving and just bawling and being like, I'm so miserable and unhappy. And so I set, after they left, an impossible goal that would motivate me to really believe that it was possible for me to do something big financially. And that was to take every single one of my nephews and my niece on their first international trip, all expense paid.
Wow.
At the time, like I could not even afford my groceries. So to set a goal that high and that specific, it motivated me through every high and low and moment of suck
Yeah.
to like really envision what that would feel like. And when we got to take that first nephew to New Zealand, all expense
Oh,
paid,
wow.
2 weeks, after he had just had a suicide attempt
Oh,
and really didn't have the will to live, to see him thrive and excited and see the world in a new way and get to experience that with him, I
wow.
set that goal thinking it would change their life and do something big for them, which I think it did. But even more so, it absolutely changed mine. It
Wow.
was the motivation I needed to keep going. And so my whole motivation is more money in the hands of women will change the world. I really believe that if we stop turning wealth away and saying, oh, it's not for me, it's greedy, I shouldn't want
Hmm.
money, like, no, instead of doing that, what if I'm the perfect steward? I mean, there's no perfect, but what if I'm
Yeah.
the steward that can make change in someone's life? What if I get to be a vehicle that money moves through to
Hmm.
make an impact? That is what I wanted so clearly. And so back to your question of why stop, we only actually just stopped. And we still have tons of rentals
Yeah.
and we're selling a few and some things have shifted for us. Like we're now in this place where our bills are taken care of and we're in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
contribution. How can we give back now? And we're young and this is so cool. And so we actually in 1 week launch our YouTube channel, Adventures with Millionaires, where we
Wow.
interview millionaires while doing something epic, where I'm hoping it inspires more people to build wealth, right? And just like you're doing with your podcast here, you want to give all those little nuggets. And then we have another channel that's launching that's like epic generosity, really unique
Ooh.
ways that we get to give back. And the only way we can do that right now is because we've built up our real estate portfolio. Like we
Yeah.
have the money and the cash flow coming in order to like go use those funds. Like, yeah, we're living off of some of it, but I hope to like live off of 10% of what I make one day and give away the 90. Like I
Wow.
just think that that would be amazing. So, we're seeking other avenues, different business avenues where we can do that now. So it's not necessarily that we've like stopped. We stopped flipping houses,
Right.
but we still have our rentals. We have our furnished rentals. We still think real estate is a really great way to build wealth. There are just new ways now. My
Yeah.
husband went to school for film production and I wanted to be an actress. Now you have YouTube. Maybe
Yeah.
we could actually use that $120,000 degree and
Wow.
do something with it on YouTube. There's just different opportunities to make money now than there ever have been. So we're just exploring some of those right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love, love, love that. And of course, there's a whole generation who are only watching YouTube, so you
Yeah.
should be fine. It's that's great. That's so good. So let's talk about your book for a minute. So
Yeah.
what's the book about? What inspired the book?
Yeah. So Buy the Damn Coffee is an anthem. It's an anthem for anybody who felt the guilt through the line at their favorite coffee shop. Like when I was living in LA and working my butt off, okay, working my butt off with nothing to show for it. And I'm standing in the line at Starbucks being like, do I need the coffee? Can I afford it? Should I just put that to debt? Everybody's telling me like if it's the coffee that's keeping me broke. I don't know how many books you've read about wealth and women and coffee. It's kind of ridiculous how many books I've read that say that same thing,
I
both by
know.
male authors and female authors. I'm like, I can't, I literally can't. And so for me, it was the coffee. Maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe it's excessive, quote unquote, eating out. I don't know what it is for you that you can afford, but you feel like that one thing is like the thing that is keeping you broke. And it's almost like a toxic relationship. For me, it was
Hmm.
the coffee, right? So here I am in the line, in the drive-through, being like, you don't need it. Why are you here? You can barely buy groceries, like what are you doing? And then I'd get the coffee and, oh, see, you're not disciplined enough. You couldn't say no. So I'd punish myself at lunch by not eating lunch, not buying lunch and eating lunch where I
Yeah.
worked. And then I'm like, wait, is this a toxic relationship? Because if this was a real person on person relationship, people would say you need to get out,
Yeah.
you know? And so for me, the coffee is an anthem. It's a movement away from the small, insignificant things. Listen, we are all adults. I don't need to tell people like, don't spend money you don't have, right? I
Hmm.
understand that like, I think I saw a stat. It was like 40% of designer bag or 40% of the market, like designer market is like low income people buying those things. I've never really been into those things.
Right.
So I haven't really had a problem like overspending on a Louis Vuitton bag. It's just not something I'm interested in spending my money on. But I understand that there is a major problem with keeping up with the Joneses. And the Joneses now are the Kardashians, which is the most unrealistic life that we're comparing our lives to, or these YouTubers who are just like throwing millions of dollars, right? It just seems so big. So then you want to be like, I want to play that game. So you buy stuff you don't need, right? Okay, I get that. We all need to like get our money in order. I don't need to make you feel bad. No one needs to make you feel guilty for that or call you stupid or, like you need to work through your relationship with money, where that comes from and why you go buy things that you don't need to fill something else. Like for sure. Like you have to work through your relationship with money. I know that's something you're really passionate about too. It starts in your mind before it ever starts in your wallet.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like this movement away from this small, insignificant purchase into thinking bigger. What about the other side of the budget? Everybody talks about cut out expenses and delete those memberships and cut out your coffees and then you're good. Like, what about the other side of the budget, which is your income, which has the greatest chance of actually changing your life?
Yeah.
Cutting out the coffee is going to take a long time. People have done the math on Instagram and I love it. People share the memes with me all the time. And it's like, cool, in 25 years, you'd have like $100,000, which by the way, won't get you much. So I'm like, then you just have a coffeeless, miserable life. Like, I'm okay. I'm gonna keep with my coffee, but I'm going to do what I can to focus on the other side of the category. And I love, I think it's like T. Harv Eker, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. His number one wealth rule is never have a ceiling on your income.
Yeah.
There should never be a ceiling on your income. So if you're in a job that pays really well, great. How can you take that income and multiply it more so that your income increases, right? Like, why do we have to be just satisfied with this finite paycheck that can barely pay the bills that we don't categorize or even use for fun, which is why then we get upset and frustrated and then we hurt ourselves financially because it feels like we're working so hard and we deserve something. But all that comes from this vicious cycle of money, of lack, of feeling like I work so hard, but it's all going to bills because we don't actually have money set aside for fun.
Right.
We need to actually spend money for fun.
Yeah.
Not just necessities and bills. And so that's really what the book is around. And it's around a lot of mental hurdles, especially, I mean, it's written for women, but I think men should read it too, especially if you're in a marriage. There's a whole marriage and money chapter on there too. But it's written for women to really truly understand where does my relationship with money start? I know I shared with you on our call, like I talk about the 3 money influencers. These are the things that have more of an impact on your behavior and your habits around money than anything else. And that is, what did you hear?
Yeah.
What did you learn? And what did you experience around money? And some of those experiences I call money events. Those 3 things will shape everything you do with money. Why you avoid opening your bank account. Hello, I did that too. I was like, I don't want to log in. Maybe if I don't log in, I won't see, which is so silly to be that avoidant of your money. And we get, I used to cry when my husband and I first started, when we first got married and we started doing like some money planning.
Yeah.
I would just cry because, again, I still had the student loan. I felt so much guilt, blah, blah, blah. And I would just burst out. And he wasn't like arguing with me. He wasn't like blaming me, but I would just have these emotional responses of just like, I can't do this. And that was my money story. And so I had to be like, okay, how can I combat that money story in this relationship that I have with money and why I get anxiety every time I'm like sitting down with my financial plan and looking at my expenses. And which, by the way, it doesn't matter what income level you get to, you will always have these come back up. They will sneak their way in at every income level being like, no, remember imposter syndrome. This isn't you. Like, I'll remember fear. Fear's going to keep you from taking that risk in that next business, right? Like it will hit you at every level. And so you have to be able to identify, but where did it come from? Where did it actually come from? And for me, there's a lot of arguments with my family with money, a lot of hiding of money from my dad and like some of those things too. And I write about a story in my book where I went shopping with my mom and it was like pretty woman. I just felt amazing. My mom let me get everything because I was a tomboy most of my life. And so the one year I was like, Mom, I'm going to shave my legs, pluck my eyebrows, and I want some dresses. She was like, my girl, hallelujah. She's here. And so she took me shopping and I had such a great time with my mom. It was amazing. And then we pulled up to our house and she goes, I think your dad is sleeping. Make sure that you keep the clothes in the car and make sure he's sleeping before you bring him in.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did we just do? Like, and then I just felt so much guilt around, did we just make a mistake? So shopping for me always came with guilt, always came with shame, always came with that because I learned it. It's because I learned it. You know, so what did you hear? What did you learn? And what did you experience? And you really need to like write it down. Like, and when it comes up, you need to like write yourself, write to the money, write to the little girl who went shopping with her mom, right? Like that's pretty much what I did in my book. Write to yourself and it's like, man, where did this come from? Now I see it. And then I like to use this method. It's a very practical method for a lot of things in life, but especially for money. And it's using my mix shift framework. So it's like my last name, MIX. The mix shift framework is really simple. The M is the message. What is the message that you are telling yourself around money? So for me, it was the coffee is keeping me broke. That's the thing. That's the thing keeping me broke. The I is ask yourself, is this true? I wasn't putting the coffee on a credit card. So if I was putting the coffee on a credit card every day and paying 26% interest, yes, the coffee is keeping me broke. You got to have a real moment, right? But the truth is no, the coffee wasn't keeping me broke. So the X in the mix shift is cross out that first message. And what would you rather be telling yourself? And for me, it was like the real game changer is on the other side of my budget.
Yeah. Wow.
If I can figure out how to make more, my life will change. Not cut more. Cutting your way to wealth,
I know,
I think is almost impossible. I don't know people who are like, I cut myself way to wealth. Like, like you can have more in your savings, maybe, and then invest it in there. But that's a very long, hard way to do it.
Yeah, and that is an old message, you know, pretty similar to the go to college, get a great job, you know, the best college will equal the better job. All of these messages, and I think there was a time when things were very different where savings really, I mean, savings still work. I'm not saying don't have a savings. You know, I have a lot of my own rules about what kind of savings and how to figure that out. But I agree, saving your way to wealth, that's not really, how much can you save? I mean, you know, and I also agree that you can only cut so far. I mean, cutting, you should look at what you're spending and you should know, you know, kind of what it costs to be you is how I like to say it. And look at it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that maybe coffee really matters to me. I love my coffee.
It just makes us happier.
It makes me happier. I know that. But so that isn't someplace I would cut. Are there other things that I'm spending money on that I don't even remember why I signed up for this or that and it's not doing anything for me? Yeah. So, you know, but to your point, that other side of the equation is so much more important. That said, I know people who say it's just about the revenue. It's only about the revenue. Like, I just have to make more. That's always the answer. I just have to make more. Meanwhile, they're drowning. And they won't look, they are avoidant, and they won't look at the spending. And so no matter how much they make, they're still always at zero. They just spend a little bit more and they reach. So it's like you to have a really good relationship, you need to be okay with looking at all of it. And the decision to focus more on the revenue is probably the smarter decision. But you can't avoid either side. Like it's so interesting how people roll.
Yeah. Well, here's the secret equation no one talks about. Okay. So expenses have a floor. You can only cut so much out. You can't live on zero. Even if you're like out in the middle of nowhere, some tax man's going to come and be like, that tree, whatever. Yeah. So like your expenses have a floor. There's only so much you can cut out. Yeah. Your income has no ceiling. Yeah. What you do with that gap, the money in between. Okay. So if you're spending more over here and your income, it's the theory that you make more, you spend more too. If you're just like doing this, the real money is in the gap. Yeah. And the gap and the real change you can make with your life is in the gap. And that gap stands for get another payday. What you do with the money left over, that is how you can change your life the quickest. Now, you might. I don't believe that debt free means you're financially free. I know a lot of debt free broke people.
Yep.
And so, and I don't know where they became synonymous with each other. Okay. I have more debt now than I ever did with the $120,000 degree. And I have more wealth now, but there are two types of debt: consumer debt and leverage debt. I don't like to use good and bad. Those are emotions and feelings, and money doesn't have those. So consumer debt takes money out of your bank account, and leverage debt puts money in your bank account. So I had to learn those differences, right?
Yeah.
But that gap, what you do with that gap makes a huge difference. And absolutely, if you're in a place where you are spending more than you make or spending everything you make, you have to make some sacrifices, but they're temporary. Guess what? You don't have to stay here for 30 years. You don't have to do that. And when you do start cutting out some things, like you just said, you start realizing, like, did I really want my money there? But if you're not aware, if you're completely oblivious because you're avoiding your money, which is because of the money influencers, then you can't make data-informed, confident decisions around your money. You know what I love doing now? Getting in my plan every Monday. And I'm like, and that was not the case. Again, I used to cry and get frustrated, and I had to work through that. Okay. But now I'm in there and I'm like, where did that subscription renew? I didn't put that on auto, and I love to save me like $300 a year on something that I didn't even like or want. You know, like, I love that. So you get to make these empowered decisions when you actually know where your money is going. And then guess what? You figure out your priorities real fast. Yeah, my coffee's important to me. You know what else is important to me? Traveling the world, which we travel hack and do all these things. Travel, like, we fly for free internationally all the time because we use credit cards, which some people would say, you're dumb, don't use any credit cards. And I'd say, don't pay any interest, but use the benefits, get free flights. We just flew to Paris for Christmas first class. It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
For free. So, there's definitely ways to use these systems, but yes, you do have a temporary is the key word, a temporary sacrifice when you're in a situation where your money is out of control. Temporary. But we're so focused on our instant gratification and like what we feel now and what will make us feel good now. It's really hard to plan for the 65-year-old, right? And I'm not even saying plan for the 65. I actually think financial freedom is so much closer than you think, but you have no idea what you want and what you need to get there. You don't even know the amount. Like, you just take a guess. Like, if I'm a millionaire, I'm financially free. I know a lot of millionaire broke people too. Yeah. So like, you don't even know what amount you need to be financially free.
Right.
You don't know what you want. Right. If you're not clear in those things, then of course you're going to be all over the place. And of course that you know, I'm just going to use examples, but this is not to shame anybody, but that lunch, that coffee, that this, that bag, that whatever, that's going to take priority today because you don't know what you want tomorrow. Yeah. So, and you won't know any of those things and what feels good to you to spend your money on if you're just avoiding your money. So you have to be in there, which I definitely provided you guys with a download. Maybe you can put it in your show notes, but JanineMix.com/money. And you can get my 5-step money planner. It's so simple. I do not like pie charts and like complicated spreadsheets. The more I see that, the more I'm like, I'm out. And there's some really amazing companies that make some really beautiful spreadsheets.
I know.
I like a simple one that's just like month by month, the whole year, one sheet. And in that sheet, you can put all your expenses. You know, it's broken down into fixed, fluctuating, and fudge expenses. And you can kind of see, engage, and make some data-driven decisions on what you want to spend your money on and what you should be putting aside for your future you, right? So what do you do with that gap? It calculates that at the bottom. What is your gap that month? Go make a money move with the gap. Not, oh, I'm going to go buy myself this. No. Go make a money move. Go multiply the gap. Yeah. You multiply the gap. You invest your way to freedom.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And thank you so much for that gift. It's so funny. My next question was, so tell me about your plan, because you were referring to your plan. So, you know, how you plan is very personal. I mean, like you said, some people, everybody's so different. I mean, so you have to find a mechanism for planning that works for you, so you'll do it.
Yep.
It's just like finding an exercise routine. You got to do something that you can do and you like. And I personally have found in my work that when I offer really simple things, I'm almost embarrassed as to how simple they are. It's like, I feel like you could have made this yourself, but here's this PDF. But those are the ones I get the feedback on. Like, oh, that was so great. And I'm like, seriously? Yeah. So the simplicity of it also, I think just psychologically, it helps you step into this idea that this doesn't have to be so hard and so technical. And I think that's a big issue, particularly for women, if they have sort of delayed understanding finance. It can be so simple, and that's a big relief.
Yeah. I have a chapter in my book it's titled It's Not Your Fault. So there's a lot of things that we need to let go to, like, oh, I'm behind and da da da. Like, listen, we're the first generation of women that could get a credit card in a house without a man. Yeah. So we're just getting started. These financial institutions are changing. They're new. A lot of them, retirement, like a lot of stuff is super new, still like 50 years old new.
Right.
Okay. So like, it's okay that you don't know it, but it's not okay to just use that as an excuse year after year to avoid it.
Yeah.
And so in this 5-step money planner, the first like tab is management of your money, but the other tabs are just organizing, like, where are my accounts? Where's my 401k?
Oh
like,
my God.
Where's my husband's 401k? Like, like, how do I access this? It's not where you put your passwords. Okay. Let's not, get hacked, but this is where you put what bank does this account lie with, and, put in, copy and paste the URL. You don't have to put in the passwords, but have a plan for that. And then there's a plan for goals. There's a plan for your credits and your debts. There's a plan for organizing your credit cards, because I am a credit card hacker. I love it. I have so many. If you look at my wallet, my cards have little pieces of tape, and this one's like groceries. That's because it gives me 4 times the points on groceries. Another card will be like gas. That's because, and I'm hacking that. And it takes me 2 seconds to like, which card is it? Oh, it's this one, and like make sure I'm getting free money to travel. In my everyday spending, of course, we have more expenses now because of real estate.
Right.
So the points are easier to acquire, but that's not how we started. And let me tell you, we went on an international trip every single year for free, using those credit card points, even when we were just starting. So on your just regular expenses, and if you're worried because you've gotten in habits before of like overspending on a credit card, pay it off weekly. That's okay too. It's a little bit more like labor, but just do it if you're really afraid of that. But something that I want to give you permission, like my podcast is called Permission to Prosper. It's the permission you didn't need, but permission to grow. I feel like there are some people out there saying that once you've been bad with money, you're always bad with money. Once you've been bad with debt, you should never have a credit card. I just don't believe that. It's like, I use this analogy in my book too, like driving. If you're a bad driver, say your best friend's a bad driver. Do you tell your best friend you are a horrible driver and you should never drive again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, maybe you would say, hey, you should take a class to learn how to park better. Or, hey, can I teach you a few things? Like, you would try to tell that person to find ways to become better with the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And the same is the same can be said about money and credit card and how to invest. You can always be getting better. I don't think that like once you're bad, you're always bad, and I think that's something that we really, especially as women, we keep holding on. See, there I did again. I had a goal this year, to set my finances up, and I didn't do it. So you punish yourself and you just give up. There's several reasons that you might avoid. I know for me, if I missed one receipt and I didn't track it, I'd feel like, oh, my whole budget's messed up. I was a perfectionist, and I let that perfectionist make me restart every several months instead of just pick it right back up. We're fine.
I know.
It's okay. And then, or there's the imposter syndrome where you just don't believe that wealth and money and investing is for you. And that's a lie. That's a lie of the world and lie of the enemy. And I just do not believe it. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, no, wealth is available to anybody who applies themselves. I really believe that. We live in an abundant world, and I don't believe that we live in a glass half empty. The other thing is you're probably afraid of failure. What if I make a mistake? What if I invest in this thing and I lose all this money? You know what? You lose some money, but you learn. Mm-hmm. The best lessons learned are when I lost money. I had a near bankruptcy near bankruptcy. It made me a better business owner. You betcha. So
100%.
like
Yeah.
fear is necessary. I actually was thinking about this the other day and I was like, you can't live a fearless life. It's impossible. But you can fear less.
Oh,
You
that's so
can
good.
fear less. Fear is absolutely necessary to keep us alive.
Yeah.
It keeps us from getting hit by a car and, like burning ourselves. Like it's there. You can't have a fearless life. You just have to use that fear as fuel. You have to learn to use it as a compass to help dictate where you should go or not. Don't let fear be in the driver's seat. Let it be in the passenger seat. Name it like, hi, Karen, I hear you right now, but I got this. I think I'm making a wise decision. And when Karen's like, but what if you lose all your money? Then you could be like, you know, it's a risk I'm willing to take to learn, but I think I'm actually going to make the money. There's
Yeah.
been more deals that have gone right for me than deals that have gone wrong for me in real estate and investing, for sure. The worst thing I could have done was never take the leap and just
Yeah.
stay at my job
Yeah.
forever and be miserable and broke.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is setting unrealistic expectations. You cannot be like, I'm going to pay off all my debt this year, save up 6 months of expenses, and go on an international trip. It's too much. It's too much. Don't set yourself up for failure like that. Set mini goals. And the best thing you can do to gain this confidence, get this clarity around your money is a thing I like to call Money Moves Monday. Every Monday,
Yeah.
I have a date with my plan.
Yeah.
Every Monday, I spend 2 hours because now I just really like it. Again, ask the girl living in LA if she would spend 2 hours with her money. Heck no. Started with 15 minutes and still a lot of tears. But take that, put it in your calendar. This is my 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We all have it. Don't lie. Don't let time and money are super intertwined, but don't let the excuse of time prevent you from multiplying your money. So put it in your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar. And I put links in there to different articles, different YouTube channels, different courses that I bought. And that's what I go and I do. I go and I increase my financial IQ. And then, of course, I'm in my budget too. But those are the things that I want to do. If I want to get more confident around investing, I just need to read an article. I need to associate myself, again, that kind of imposter syndrome too, associate myself as someone who is knowledgeable because that
Right.
knowledge is learned. You're not born with wealth skills.
Right.
Okay. So, like, you have to learn them and take a little bit of time. I used to go into the bank when we first started in real estate and I would just be quiet. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to ask something that they just thought I was stupid. And so I would just not. And now I have the confidence that bankers ask me questions like, where do you think this is going? And I'm like, this is so cool that I can answer this and I have familiarity. But that familiarity only happened because I got myself familiar every Monday. Started with an article, started with reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Spend a whole year reading one book every month that will increase your financial IQ and confidence.
Yeah.
Just spend that 1 year and you will transform. I don't even think you need a year, but like you will transform what you believed about yourself and you will reprogram your mind because you're priming it with
Yes.
information
Yeah.
and it will be a game changer for you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm clapping here. This is so good. I hate that we're out of
I
time,
know.
but you just delivered so many gems and I could go back and have a cold conversation about 20 things I just heard. The one thing I'm going to just say is you have exemplified how to have fun with your money. The fact that you went from 15 minutes to 2 hours and just the way you're talking about it, the credit cards and the different ones for the different you're having fun with money, which is that's when your relationship has been developed to a really great point. And that's what I always want for people instead of it being like this horrible, thing they have to do, like cleaning the toilet.
Yeah.
It can be fun, but it's fun not because you have so much money, not that that hurts anything, but because you have a great relationship with money. So, there's a difference there. And I think it's really important for people to understand that. So even if you haven't reached all your goals, even if you haven't been able to retire at 33, you still can have fun with your money once you get to know it well enough and you have this plan and you're working the plan and you're seeing things happen. So thank you so much for being here. You have been such an entertaining guest for one thing. I just love this. Your YouTube show is going to be a huge hit. And I want you to tell people how to find you, and just, maybe repeat what we've talked about with all the things that you have going on, your podcast, your book, etc.
Well, thank you so much. Even you just pointing that out is like it was a realization actually for one of the first times of like, yeah, I am happy about money, which is crazy because I just told you guys the story that I would cry every time. So thank you for pointing that out. It makes me realize how far I've come, and I hope that your audience gets some hope in that they can also grow these skills and be happy with their money too. So go to JanineMix.com/moneyyou. Money You.
Thank you.
And you can get my 5-step money planner. There's a link to purchase my book, a link to a Facebook group to come connect with me. I'm on Instagram primarily, so come hang out with me on Instagram. I would absolutely love it if you told me what stood out to you from this episode. I love to connect. I love how the internet brings us together when we actually connect with people. So I'm a real person. You're a real person. Come connect. But yeah, that's what I would say. And really just start with organizing your money. I don't even like the word budget. It's like, ugh. So money plan, it's your money plan, and just start there. Like that is the first place you can start. And it could take you just an hour, to get it together, or maybe just a few for the week, and you will feel so much better. So if I could leave you with any action, take that action. Also, continue to listen to podcasts like this. This is going to be the thing. This could be on your Money Moves Monday, on your commute to work, that you listen to this podcast, so that you're increasing your financial IQ and you're learning from the experts that Michelle is so graciously bringing onto this show for you. So that's what I would say too, is just make things like this. Information received is really important, and take one step from each episode, and you will see that change your life.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Your time is valuable, and I am honored and excited that you were able to come here today. You have so much to share. And I'm just really, you have a very elevated energy too that I just love. And I love your story, and I hope people will take heart that I loved what you said about it's never too late. If it hasn't worked for you in the past, it doesn't mean it's not going to work for you in the future. We have to drop all that and just move forward. And so thank you again. And I look forward to connecting with you in various forms in the future. So
I think we're going to so besties.
Yeah,
Thanks you so much for having me on here. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'll think of you when I have my coffee tomorrow morning too.
Good. Cheers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Janine. And thank you, audience, for being here. Love it when you listen to the Money and You show. This was a great show. I know you enjoyed it, and I hope you will share it with your friends and let other people know, because this one was chock full of amazing information that very usable, actionable information. So please use it yourself and share it with your friends. And if you liked the show, please rate and review the show. We would love that. It helps me to bring guests like Janine on the show. And so this was a great one. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so at Michelle, 2 L's, or team@limitfreelife.com, and let us know how you felt, what you'd like to see on the show. We always like to get feedback. So thank you so much for that. And we'll see you next week.